You are now listening to the Highlight Reel Builder for Authors, the Going North podcast. I'm your host, certified self-leadership trainer and author of the best-selling book, Stay the Course, Dom Brightmon. And you're going to be getting some goodies today from the guest that's up next. Wherever you are right now, in your car, in your home, in the bathroom, repeat after me. I feel happy. I feel healthy. I feel terrific. And yours truly is feeling terrific today. Welcome to SelfieCast episode number 3. Happy birthday, happy day of birth to the legend, the living legend himself, the one, the only Dom Brightmon. And my goodness, yours truly, the host. 30 years old now. Man, I did not see this coming. Yours truly tries to design his life as much as possible, but I did not see 30 coming. But it's A-okay. It's A-okay. And thank you for listening right now to this wonderful episode this is going to be, because my goodness, got something in store for you, It's probably going to be the most content-heavy SelfieCast episode yet. Heck, maybe even one of the most content-heavy episodes of this entire podcast. And that's a tall order considering there's over 400 episodes of this show out there right now. But hey, what can I say? It's been one heck of a ride. I'm blessed by the almighty creator above and around to be alive and well with this voice to share with you today some wonderful lessons I've learned on this planet Earth. And if you want to support yours truly and leave a gift, feel free to head over to goingnorthpodcast.com. There's a couple buttons you can press. There's a wonderful app that I should probably promote more often called the Buy Me a Coffee app, where you can hit a little button and you can donate $5 to yours truly, so that way you can stay caffeinated to keep pushing out this great content and keep living a life of helping others and advancing. And I also take PayPal as well, so if you want to do a PayPal donation, it's A-okay. Or if you want to email me at dombrightmon.com and cash at me directly, or just send a check in the mail, I will be happy for any and all sorts of gifts and donations. Because even though I'm not that type of person that'd be like, hey, I'm celebrating my birthday all month or all year. I'm like, hey, I celebrate every day of life, because the secret to living is giving, and I've been given this chance to live. And if you want to bless yours truly, I'd be happy to accept and receive any and all gifts from any and all comers. So thank you for listening. Thank you for all of this time that you've decided to dedicate to listening to today's episode and all the episodes in the past. So if this is your first time listening, thanks a bunch. If this is your 354th time listening, thanks a bunch. And let's get on with these lessons, because just like ESPN has 30 for 30, since I'm 30 years old now, I figured I'd share 30 lessons. You heard that right. 30 lessons learned from 30 years on the planet Earth. So you definitely want to have pen and paper out for this one. Lesson number 1. It's easier to get out of shape than to get back into shape. Kind of an interesting lesson learned to start off with. But yeah, for those who may be out there and may have been through the COVID-19, and I ain't just talking about the virus, I'm talking about the pounds that a lot of folks gained, you probably know exactly what the heck I'm talking about. It is definitely easier to get out of shape than to get back into shape, because yours truly was a fat kid growing up and having asthma. Then in, I say around high school, I think it was like 10th grade or something, lost a bunch of weight, got better, got a little bit more athletic, tapped into the athletic build that is within me. Then got real skinny, got to like 155 pounds. And in my teenage years, I was like a good 230. Then stayed 155 for about a couple more years, got to 21, 23, got to like 180, then 190, 25, some grief happened, got to freaking 264 pounds, then lost some weight, then COVID, gained some weight back, and now I'm losing some more weight again, and getting some more muscle on me, because I want to make all kinds of gains. And this lesson stuck out to me the most because of that yo-yo swag. of back and forth, back and forth. And one of the keys to sustainable success is really that awareness and being aware of your habits and being able to change those habits for the better. So, so for those out there who may be a little more seasoned on the one first, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So if you're in shape, definitely try to stay in shape as long as you can. Lesson number 2. Networking is the quickest way to advancement. And this is from one of the chapters in my book, Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success. So feel free to buy 7 copies of Stay the Course, The Elite Performer's 7 Secret Keys to Sustainable Success after listening to this episode, if you haven't already, because my goodness, networking, networking, networking. Some people hate it, some people really love it, and some people are like in the middle, it's like, whatever. But my goodness, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, networking is definitely the way to go, because yours truly wouldn't be here on this show, and you probably wouldn't be listening to me right now if I didn't go out there and network with other people. Because for those who remember book number 1, Going North, in the first chapter, I talk about how going into a wonderful environment with a cheerful, helpful spirit to support a friend of mine giving a keynote presentation, I ended up getting advanced in Toastmasters as an area director because the slot was open and I was there to support a friend, but I ended up networking and seeing a fellow Toastmaster, and that helped me to advance further than before, and that led to quantum leaps one after the other to the person you're hearing today. So if you want to really advance in life, networking is definitely one thing you need to do and really put yourself over the edge. So go out from a position of how you can help somebody as opposed to how you can get something out of someone. Number 3, read what you love and what will truly help you advance. Read what you love and what will truly help you advance. For those in the US of A and those who may have been through grade school, they give you books that you may not like, especially in the high school years. And you're like, oh man, why the heck am I reading this? And you're probably like, man, I want to see another book again, especially those who went to higher levels of education and went through all these darn textbooks that they overpaid for. And just going through the classes, you're like, man, I don't want to see another book again. But the thing is, those books exist, but there's also other books out there that exist too. From authors like yours truly, Dominique Brightmon, John Maxwell as well. He's my favorite living author right now because his writings have changed my life for the better. And I could probably go on and on. Heck, this show has featured over 400 different authors. So you can find something for just about anybody. So read what you love and read what will help you truly advance, because in today's society, there's no excuse to read at least one good book a month. Number 4, self-care is a requirement. Self-care is a requirement. Even if it's for just 15 minutes a day. Another past episode that was on this podcast featured a teacher in the local area of Baltimore, Maryland, Brian Douglas Neal, where that episode was all about edutainment, where one of the major tips he gave for teachers and educators, heck, even for anybody, to be honest, especially if you're in the service industry, is to give yourself at least a good 15 minutes a day to do something that you enjoy, no matter what. Have that pocket of peace. Have that pocket of peace in your day. Plan it, schedule it. Make it in the morning, make it in the evening, maybe make it in the middle of the day. Do something that you love for 15 minutes a day. If that's meditation for 15 minutes, reading a good book for 15 minutes, playing a video game for 15 minutes, do something for just 15 minutes a day where it's just you and you alone. So self-care is a requirement. Number 5, active effort is required to get to where you want to be. Active effort is required to get you to where you want to be. Another reason why this episode is going to be content heavy, because I'm going to be recommending so many past episodes, because this lesson in particular came from Charlie Harari, Unlocking Greatness. And to be honest, that was probably one of my proudest moments as a host in the early days of the show because it felt like I was the lawyer interviewing another lawyer with all the questions. But in his wonderful book, he mentioned that active effort is what helps you get success out of life. And the thing is, effort is one thing, but you have to actively put effort in every day to what you want to manifest and to what you want to do. Because one of the things I've learned in that those two words stuck out to me is that a lot of people out there, they may think that, oh, if I just put a little effort into something, then it'll happen for me. Nope, you got to take active effort. You have to put intentional action, sometimes massive action. Because the next lesson, in particular, is the reason why active effort is required to get you to where you want to be. Because number 6, northbound success, big success, whatever that success is for you, whatever success is for you, I define success as self-mastery. And to get to self-mastery, you have to realize that it never happens in a straight line. Success never happens in a straight line. It's basically a squiggly line. Success is basically a squiggly line. I remember getting my IT degree from CCBC back in 2013, and I was talking with a colleague of mine. I was like, yeah, I think I'll be promoted about a year or so after really getting these certifications. And she was like, hey, don't think it's that easy. And oh, she was right. It was not that easy. I put in some active effort. I was in campaign mode at my day job, trying to get promoted while doing some side stuff to really boost up my resume as an IT guy, going for a Security Plus certification and taking the test and getting 100 points shy from passing the exam, all because I forgot my test taking skills I learned from high school, from a certain high school where test taking was where you succeeded, and if you didn't succeed at test taking, well, you're about to be out the door. And I forgot those lessons, and instead of going back, I still was able to get promoted about a good year later, even though I thought it was going to be in like a couple months or a few months because I built up a reputation was there for so long. I figured, oh yeah, they'll probably promote me easily. And realizing, nope, it never happens in a straight line. Success never happens in a straight line. The classic quote that I'm sure a lot of us have heard before, man makes plans and God laughs. Also, my favorite version, I should say, my favorite quote as an anecdote for this lesson, from Mike Tyson. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Because life is going to punch you in the face. It's going to punch you in the gut, too. Heck, it might even be a swift kick to the gut. And you have to be able to adjust in those times where you're going in a squiggly line. And that even leads to lesson number 7. It takes time to get good, but it takes evaluated experience to enhance how much greater you become. And I probably got to say that 2 more times. It takes time to get good, but it takes evaluated experience to enhance how much greater you become. It takes time to get good, but it takes evaluated experience to enhance how much greater you become. In the year 2013, where was my year of rebirth and my first ever year of doing what I call the New Year's mantra, also mentioned in the first ever book, Going North, is the fact that one of the audiobooks that I was listening to, I believe is a Brian Tracy audiobook about goals, and mentioned Toastmasters International. That was also around the time when I volunteered to be the chairperson of a public speaking seminar for my church. And I had about a good, I'd say 6, 7, 9 months or so from the time of picking that event in particular, because that was my wheelhouse. Because those who know me for a bit, you know public speaking is my wheelhouse. I was reciting scriptures in front of hundreds of people every Sunday growing up in church, holding plays, even played the role of Jesus back-to-back nights and back-to-back times, and memorizing so many lines and trying to be the best person that I could be for that role, listening to my voice over and over again. Heck, even I'd say that role probably prepared me to be a better podcast and a better editor, because a lot of podcasters hate hearing their own voice, and I too hated hearing my voice in my teenage years, so I felt like I was already a good speaker. But when I got to Toastmasters, I became a greater speaker, because you can't take one style of speaking everywhere you go. You have to make minor adjustments to where your audience will be able to meet you, because a hardcore Black Baptist style of speaking, if not preaching, isn't going to fly everywhere you go. And I learned to incorporate more humor into my presentations, become a better storyteller, have a more conversational style and tone, being able to test out new content, test out new jokes, and see how things would fly and react. And if something would drop at that time that would hit them right on the mark, I'd keep it. If it wouldn't, then, well, I guess I gotta axe it. Kind of like a professional stand-up comedian who is fully experienced. Because stand-up comedy, folks may think a funny person at the job may do well in stand-up comedy, but it's not the case. Because stand-up comedy, especially in the southern states especially, if you're not funny quick, if you're not quick-witted and you're not making folks laugh, and if you're bombing on stage, they will boo you off the stage in some areas across the world even. And a lot of stand-up comedians, it takes them at least a good year to get a good 60 to 90 minutes of straight content to have their set ready. And in my own lifetime, that was true, because there was a certain joke in particular, I probably say it a lot of times. It was the fact that back in 2012, where people thought the world was going to end, but all that happened is that we lost Twinkies for a month. It took me a year to really get that joke to really get a couple of chuckles off of it, because a lot of folks want to say, oh yeah, that was the year we thought the world was going to end. Like, really, dude? What? Like, people just stare at me when I said it. But when I said, let me take you back to 2012, where we thought that the world was going to end, and all that happened is that we lost Twinkies for a month, it's like, there's the punchline. The Twinkies, because it's so random and outrageous. And it takes time to get good, but it takes evaluated experience. One of the 15 laws of growth from John C. Maxwell mentions evaluated experience. Folks say that experience is the best teacher. No. Evaluated experience is the best teacher, because we experience things every single day that we are alive. But if you take time to evaluate those experiences, see if you can get the juice out of life, the juice out of those situations, the juice out of those moments, document them, see how you can become better, see how those situations are going to set you up for future success. That's where you become greater, is when you evaluate past life experiences. Number 8. Communication is more than just the words you speak, hear, and write. Communication is more than just the words you speak, hear, and write. They say the pen is mightier than the sword, because a pen from a scholar will last for hundreds of years, especially if they preserve it, as opposed to someone whose life is just ended by a sword, because a pen, that will last for centuries to come. There's a reason why books like the Bible are still around. That's been preserved for years, centuries, millennia. And sacred texts. And the words you hear, there could be that time where you may have had that teacher that said you couldn't do it, and you probably still remember that. Some people have used that as fuel to promote them to new heights. Heck, even I remember Steve Harvey in his book, Act Like a Success, Think Like a Success. When he was in grade school, I believe like 3rd grade, he said that he was going to grow up and be on TV. And his teacher at the time, with their small-minded thinking, said, oh, get that out of your head, Steve. You ain't going to be on TV. And even though he still has a presence on TV, a few years ago, every time you turn the channel, you see Steve Harvey. Dude had like 5-7 TV shows at once. Guy gets like no sleep. All because he used that fuel when he had a dream, and it happened because he took that massive intentional action to make it happen. And the words you speak are probably only 7% of what you actually receive. In communication, it's about a good 7%. 7% of the words. The other 93% is based on your body language and your tonality. And there's a reason why this even goes back to the prior point. about it takes time to get good, but it takes evaluated experience to enhance your greatness. Because another thing in Toastmasters I learned is vocal variety. You can't be monotone the whole time and you can't scream the whole time. You have to find a way to modulate your tone. You can't be like Ben Stein, clear your eyes the whole entire 60 minutes and put people to sleep. No, you can't be doing that to people because they're going to change the channel. They're going to tune into something else, especially in this age of attention management. And the thing is, the words you speak are important. The words you hear, they are important. But it depends on the messenger. What is the body language conveying of that person? What is the tone of that person? If someone says, "Don't do that again," versus, "Hey, could you please not do that again?" There is a stark difference between the two. The one is more commanding and declarative. The other version of that, especially putting the word please in front of it, was a little more softer and a lot more easier on the ears. Now you may get the same result from both, but your success rate may be different between the both depending on how the person receives your message. Because your body language and the true intent of your message, that has to come through, and a lot of it comes through, especially when it's face to face. Heck, even still on video, if it's video conferencing, the way you appear on the screen, even though it's limited compared to the true blue face to face, body language is still very important because eye contact is also very important as well. So communication is more than just the words you hear, speak, and write. Number 9, have a mentor. Have a mentor. It's important to have a mentor in life. It's very important. Heck, even Doug Lawrence, one of our more recent episodes from this year, that was about a good 40 minutes of why mentoring is a good thing. And heck, even one of the chapters in Going North, the title is Mentorship is a Book on Steroids. Because a mentor is someone who is in the area of expertise, or a person or a role model who is doing or has done the thing that you want to do, that can give you applicable advice that you can take action on immediately, as well as give you feedback. Because with a book, it's great. I love books, but also a mentor, that's taking it to another level, especially when you have regular meetings with them and they check in with you and they give you that accountability. Because we always act different and we always advance a lot quicker with accountability. Heck, even one of my mentors, I even met him through Toastmasters, and he's episode 221 of this podcast, Dr. Ray Charles, with his episode Righteous Leadership, that you should check out like 17 library books. One major story that I usually share when I'm giving presentations, if mentorship ever comes up, is the time that we had coffee one morning, mentor the mentee, mentor the protege, and I had this wonderful book called The One Thing, and he was interested to see, hey, how'd you like the book? Because it was on his bookshelf as well. And shortly after telling him how good the book was and how far I'm into it, he also shared with me that I should stop being a consumer and to be a producer. Because one thing about me, I can be a little compulsive with absorbing a lot of information. And sometimes my content absorbing time doesn't really supersede my content creation time. There should be a good balance between the two. You can't just absorb content all day. You can't be like a zombie nowadays scrolling through life on your smartphone, or trying to binge watch Netflix all day, or still watching the darn boob tube all day, as they used to call it, with the wonderful television programming in your mind. You can't just be doing that all day and just be a sponge all day. You gotta squeeze out the lessons that you've learned and go into sponge mode and squeeze it out sometimes and get that onto somewhere and not carry it around with you. Because sometimes people are carrying around a lot of baggage, a lot of weight. It could be psychic baggage, it could be that internal mental baggage, but it also could be the baggage of so much knowledge but no action behind it to make sure your life is better and to make other lives better as a result of your learnings. So have a mentor. Number 10, we're 1/3 of the way there. And this one's another next level one. It even ties in with accountability. Hire a coach. Hire a coach. At first, when I had a conversation with with the guy who became my coach, I was a little skeptical because I'm like, the heck, I need a coach for? I know what to do. The thing is, we all know what we want to do. We, in deep within ourselves, we all know what we want to do and what we need to do. Even at a small level, we know what we need to do. But sometimes we need somebody to hold us accountable, hold our feet to the fire, and help us to think bigger. Because one thing about hiring a coach, even though it was a shiny penny that was involved, that investment in myself helped me to make quantum leaps. And hiring a coach helped me to write and publish a book at 23, become area director and jumping over a presidential term in Toastmasters, and give more speeches and put myself out there a lot more than what I would have done without having a coach, because that accountability, heck, even building an accountability fire of having accountability buddies with your coach, if you can trust them with your goals that you want to get out of life, then you will be making quantum leaps in life. And when you have that help and accountability and someone to hold you to the fire, you will get a lot more done. I know it's worked for me. Number 11. Be financially literate. And one of the reasons why this is here, because it's one of the skills I list for millennials to learn, because it's something they don't teach in school. And it's probably because teachers don't get paid the salaries that they deserve. So be financially literate. Like, have some financial acumen. Learn about money. Try to learn about stocks. If you want to learn about cryptocurrency, go ahead and do that. One of the most popular episodes of this podcast was with Rachel Richards from last year, who wrote a book called Money Honey. And she also has another wonderful book called Passive Income, Aggressive Retirement. And like, that's a great episode you want to listen to. That's another person you definitely want to follow if you want to get some financial muscle under your belt. Also, a classic book that probably everybody has on their bookshelf as a financial guide is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. That book is probably the Bible of financial literacy. And heck, even for those who are really in the hole, you can even start off with Dave Ramsey as well. It's like his stuff is so basic, and even though there's a lot of people that love him and a lot of people that don't like him. So it's, some people are kind of like the love and hate sort of thing with him, kind of, because the thing is, he gives so many baby steps and focuses on the basics and the minimum, where it's like, oh, you just focus on being mediocre all your life, huh? It's like, oh, avoid credit. Well, yeah, I mean, if you have a bad habit with credit and you have bad credit habits and you get into bad debt instead of good debt, bad debt like food and random entertainment that's not really going to benefit you, as with good debt as in like real estate investments, heck, even powerful experiences like personal development conferences and educational programs that are truly going to benefit you, then yeah, there's a stark difference, because Dave Ramsey himself had a bad experience with credit. And I'm not going to share any more about his story, because if you want, you can check him out for yourselves. But yeah, I'd say if we're going to go, I'd say Rachel Richards, start off with that episode. If you want to get a nice little, if you're like in a real tough spot, Dave Ramsey's a good guy, because a lot of people, they don't have $1,000 saved up. So that's one of the things he recommends. So if you're like in one of those situations where your debt is to high heaven, like there's metaphorical weed going on with your financial life, then hey, definitely a good place to start. Then Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then go from there and try to learn from as many great people as possible. Heck, even another hidden gem on this podcast, because I put out so many episodes, is the way to invest into storage units as well. One of those wonderful investments that you probably rarely hear about, storage units, because a lot of people, they put a lot of things in storage, especially in the US of A, because we love having stuff. Stuff makes us feel good. But having stuff isn't always good, so I'll put that in the show notes too. This might even be the longest show notes episode ever on goingnorthpodcast.com. Oh man. Number 12. Vision. Have a vision for your life. Classic verse, I'm paraphrasing from the Bible. I want to say Hosea 4:6, but that might be the wrong verse. But without a vision, the people will perish. And I'd like to define vision as your future truth. because affirmations help get you into a more powerful state. One of the things you can say to yourself is, I'm the best in the world at what I do. I'm the best in the world at what I'm doing, similar to Muhammad Ali. I am the greatest. I am the greatest. And just saying that over and over again before you become the actual future truth of yourself that manifests in the future. So your future truth manifests with your present intentional action. So take the action today to live it until you advance. Number 13, your words have power. Your words have power. Another wonderful book. Folks are probably like, Dom, how the hell am I going to read all these books, man? That's your problem. Don't worry, I'm going to put it out there. You can read them if you want. Oh, man. But yeah, your words have power. Another wonderful book I would recommend folks to read is a book called Supreme Influence by Niruka. Supreme Influence by Niruka. And that woman is going to be on this show. I don't know how it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Because this book is freaking amazing. Because in this wonderful book, it speaks about the wonderful power of communication. You will change your life with the power of the language that you use. And in this book in particular, she spoke about a wonderful word that I'm sure a lot of us have heard before, abracadabra. Abracadabra. And apparently in Aramaic, if you break it down, it actually means I create as I speak. I create as I speak. Abra means I will create, and cadabra means as was spoken. So your language has creative power. Your language has creative power. Because my goodness, funny story. It was actually, I was doing my whole day job thing. There was a trainee on the desk. We have a little new book section, and I found a book about dad jokes. And before I found this book, I'm known around the place as the corny joke colonel. But this book was going to take me over the edge. And I was showing it off to people. He was like, hey, look what I found. And then he was like, oh, and the trainee was like, hey, yeah, I think I'm going to hold this book for a second. Like, oh, okay, feel free to look at it, but don't worry. In 10 minutes, you're going to get distracted, and I'm going to snag that book back, by the way. 5 minutes later, he's distracted with another customer that he's helping out. I snag the book back, and voila, the dad joke book is mine. It's all mine. And it was all because, one, the experience of yours truly at the time with the trainee. And two, the words you speak have power. I told him in 10 minutes time he's going to forget about that book and he's going to get distracted. Lo and behold, it happened in 5 minutes. And that's a small example. That's a small example. And actually, that leads to the next wonderful lesson. Number 14, you are stronger than you think. You are stronger than you think. Back in 2015, my year of Kaizen, I was doing CrossFit. I finally caved in and started doing CrossFit. Because I was with my Taekwondo instructor. He started his own CrossFit gym because he wanted to start his own business and have his own location to teach as many classes as he would like to have and as many as he would want, because he was working for somebody else and that was a side job of his, and he was being held back. And he became a CrossFit trainer, and I stuck with him. With the Taekwondo, I did the kickboxing, and I finally caved in and started doing CrossFit. And man, good thing I did do it at the time, because a few months in, we were doing deadlifts. It was a hot summer day, and I learned that I was stronger than I gave myself credit for because I was doing CrossFit for a bit. And one of the things was we were doing deadlifts where you stand in a particular position and you lift with your knees. You lift the bar up all the way up to your belt line, and then you gently drop the weight. And I was doing good. I got to about a good 200 pounds. And there was a couple other folks in there. It was a Friday evening. It was one of the smaller classes. And just out of the blue, out of nowhere, I was just piling up more weight. And Chris was like, hey, Dom's a strong guy. He can handle this. He can probably get to 300. Little did I know, I'd never dreamed that I would be picking up 300 pounds, because next thing I know, I was able to do my first deadlift of 300 pounds. It was 305 when all the weight was added up, including the bar. And I'm like, what the fudge? 300 pounds? Like, dude, that's a super heavyweight person. And just that one thing just led to the fact that sometimes we are stronger than we think. And that even dovetails with the previous lesson of your words have power. Because my instructor, he mentioned that I was a strong guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a strong dude, but I didn't know I was that strong and that capable. And I eventually got to 355. Now, granted, some injuries happened and I stopped the CrossFit, but that's beside the point. I was able to get to that point. And if I was physically able to keep up with everything, I probably got to 400, maybe even 500-pound lifts. All because of progress and all because we are stronger than we think. Lesson number 15. Your brain can be programmed how you want it to be programmed. Your brain can be programmed how you want it to be programmed. Another book. Short one this time. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And that wonderful book, my goodness, I'm sure a lot of folks have read that book because it's 64 pages, pocket size. You can probably read it in one sitting. But that book is so powerful, you got to read it at least twice. Because it's so true. It talks about how your mind is a garden and you must tend to it daily. And the things that we watch, what we put in front of our eyes, the things that we listen to, is what's going to determine what we're going to produce and put out into the world. Because when I read that book, it helped me to realize, oh, wow, so I can program my mind, huh? There's another reason why TV is short for television programming, because they're programming you how to think. Well, I can take the metaphorical remote control of my own hands and program my own mind and change the channel to what I want to get out of life. And you too can take the metaphorical remote control of your two hands and you can change the channels to the channels that you want to see, you want to hear, and what you want to be in front of your eyes and ears all the time. And you can create and program your mind the way you want to program it, because if you put yourself in front of enough positivity, put yourself in front of enough of what you want to get out of life, it's eventually going to find its way to you like a magnet. It's kind of like how you practice for and study for a final exam or a test, because a lot of folks, they listen to whatever content they can on audio, they read the books, they do practice tests, and they program their mind to have all that information in their brain, so that way when it comes test time, they'll be able to answer questions flawlessly with ease. So your mind, your brain, can be programmed the way you want it to be programmed. Number sweet 16. Books are great, but experience in the battlefield is sweeter. Books are great, but the experience in the battlefield is sweeter. And you're probably like, hey, Dom, so what the heck you mean, man? But tell me all these book recommendations for this past half hour or so. Like, what do you mean by this, man? Well, the thing is, a quote by Wolfgang von Goethe. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Willing is not enough. We must do. You can know all day. You can know things all day. Heck, it even goes back to another lesson from before, where my mentor, Dr. Ray, telling me to stop being a consumer and be a producer. Those who do and are doers get more than those who simply watch what has happened. Heck, this even reminds me of the classic Man in the Arena quote from Theodore Roosevelt, where it talks about how it's not the critic who counts, or not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. My friend, the man in the arena, as you charge into this week, it's Labor Day 2021 as you're listening to this, and it's yours truly's birthday. But more importantly, you yourself, be a person of action this week. Do at least one new thing this week. Take a different route to work. Do something different. Get 1% better at something. Do something for yourself, and do something that'll help you to get to where you want to become. Because it's the person who is in the battlefield, the person with the scars of proof. That is the person that you're going to want to take your advice from. The person who's been in the battlefield, who has the battle scars to prove that they're battle tested and battle ready to really take on any obstacle that they may face. So, my friends, books are great, but also take some experience from those books and get some more experience, because when you have that battle tested experience, it feels a lot better and it'll stick with you a lot longer. Number 17, ask for what you want. Ask for what you want. My friends, like I may have to scale back because there's like so many recommendations I can go with this. But there's a book called Ask Outrageously. And a quick story how I got a podcast guest here. It was a certain guest, in particular, Mara Neville Thomas, who wrote a wonderful book called Attention Management. I read her book about a good, I'd say, 9 months before I circle back around to Twitter to follow her on Twitter, because usually when I pick up a new book to read and I like what the person's putting in, where I'm picking up what they're putting down, I'm like, oh yeah, I usually subscribe to the email list and all that good stuff. But I realized I subscribed to her email list in one email that I don't use as much as another email, and I didn't subscribe to her. So I followed her on Twitter, on all of her other social media profiles, and out of nowhere, she followed me back, and I shot her a quick message, because this was about 9 months after I finished the book, and I was like, hey, Mara, this is a fabulous book you got here. Thanks a bunch for writing it. I truly enjoyed it. Keep doing awesome work. And she's like, oh, this is freaking awesome. She's working the ask muscle as well, the gluteus ascimus, asking for what you want. She's like, hey, am I putting that in a review and leaving it on Amazon? I'm like, sure. Well, since we're here, hey, if you want to be on another show to continue to promote what you're doing, let me know. And she's like, hey, shoot me an email at this email address and let's make it happen. And voila, it happened. And to make it even better, what I used to do at the end of every email with every guest that appeared on the show, I put P.S. If there's any other author in your network that would like to be on this show, let me know. After her episode went live, she introduced me to the 2020 World Champion of Public Speaking, Mike Carr, who became another guest on this show. And you can check out his episode, Tranquil Triumphs. And those two powerhouse people would have never been on this podcast if I didn't ask for what I wanted. Because no one's truly a mind reader. You can read body language all day and have a good idea, but you can't really truly read what's going on in someone's mind. So, as the classic saying goes, no guts, no glory. As a more colorful version from a guy named Grant Cardone, no balls, no glory. So, ask for what you want, my friends. Ask for what you want. Number 18. Be in a climate where success is a normal occurrence. Be in a climate where success is a normal occurrence. And you can create this with the things that you read, the things that you watch, the things that you listen to, and the people you hang around. Because the classic saying goes, the 5 friends you hang around the most are going to show you who you are going to be in the future. And if you are in a climate of success where people are always advancing and becoming better, you too will become better. Toastmasters International, I probably mentioned that 5 times already in this one episode. And that organization led me to where I am today, and some of the guests that have been on this show and some of the guests that are going to be on the show in the future. All because I decided to go in a climate of success, a climate where folks are trying to grow and become better. Some stayed longer than others like myself and decided to absorb as much as they could to try and get better. And yours truly tries to stay in a climate of success all the time. A lot of these guests that are on the show, I try to stay in a climate of success. I wrote a book about elite performance because I try to stay in a climate of success. If you want to get to where you want to be, program your mind the way you want it to be programmed. Put the things in front of your eyes that you want to see. Avoid the news. Be in the place where you want to be. Live it until you advance by being in a climate where success is normal. Because success to people in one area may be big for you, but if it's normal for them, imagine how much further you will go. Another powerful question to ask yourself, instead of how long will this take, ask yourself, how far can I go? And take it as far as you can take it. Next lesson as a follow up 19. Momentum is your friend. Keep it up as long as you can. Momentum is your friend. Keep it up as long as you can. In John Maxwell's book, The 21 Laws of Leadership, one of the laws is the law of the Big Mo. Momentum is your friend, because when you have momentum, things are great. Momentum is what keeps you going strong. And sometimes things just come to you like a magnet when you're in a momentum phase. When you are in a great phase of momentum, keep it up as long as you can. Because similar to a reputation, it can be hard to get back when you lose momentum. So when you have momentum, ride the wave as long as you can. Do everything within your power to keep it up. Because one thing that happened in my life, when I lost momentum, it was pretty hard to get it back and to be able to pivot in another direction. Number 20. Spiritual awareness gives you an advantage. Spiritual awareness gives you an advantage. I don't care if you're Christian, Buddhist, or if you're Muslim. It doesn't matter to me what faith you follow as long as you have some kind of faith. Me personally, I'm a Christian. I'm a Bible-believing Christian who was raised in a Baptist church and did a lot of studying since I went to a Christian high school and even took some seminary level courses my senior year in high school from a pastor himself. So I consider myself a pretty decent Bible reader who tries to stay up on his faith. And the thing is, there have been times where I've fallen off the wagon and I can tell the difference. Similar to momentum. When you lose momentum, it's not good. When you lose spiritual momentum, when you're not daily checking in with your higher power, I personally subscribe to the Anointed One, Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for my sins and the sins of the world. And checking in with my Lord and Savior, that is where my true strength comes from at a higher level. Because your body can only go so far, but through spirit, because at the end of the day, we're just human beings having a heavenly experience, or should I say we're heavenly beings having a human experience, because we are souls, we are spirits living in a body right now. No matter what happens, we are animated through our souls within ourselves. These are clay vehicles that we have, and you need to tap in to what helps your spirit to sing, your soul to sing. And spiritual awareness is what gives you an advantage. A lot of folks who are elite performers, they are those who have a source of faith. They may not all believe in God, they may not all be Christian, but they have a source of belief. They have a biology of a belief. They have a structure of belief where they do something that cures and helps their spirit. They check in with themselves before they check in with the world. As I like to say, they give themselves the gift of solitude so they can masterfully serve the multitude. And that happens with spiritual awareness. So if you want an advantage, check in with yourself. Start with some silence. Pick up the Holy Writ. Read some scriptures. See if you might like what you read. Pick up the book of Proverbs. Read the Psalms. Heck, even pick up a New Testament book of Mark. That's probably one of my favorite books in the Bible, the book of Mark, because it's a nice, abridged, straight, no chaser story about the life of Jesus and some of the miracles he's done in his life and how he's helped hundreds and thousands of people and how his influence after his death in the physical realm thousands of years ago, over 2,000 years ago, is still today through the Holy Spirit, because he basically came to save the world. So for those who are still tuned in. Let's move to number 21. Conversation is a key that unlocks doors of wisdom. Conversation is a key that unlocks doors of wisdom. Some call it a wisdom key if you're a Mike Murdoch fan. There's a reason why these podcasts are more conversational than interview based. Because in conversation, if you're an avid listener, you get to hear things, and if you ask the right questions, you unlock the key and you get the master lock to a new piece of information that will help you get past what you may be going through or something that can help you advance to a further level. So conversation is a key that unlocks the doors of wisdom. When you ask the right questions and you wait for a response and you take in that response and then ask a follow-up question if need be, and then taking that information and using it for your current and future good, that'll put you at an advantage, especially if it's someone who is miles ahead of you and you want to try to get a piece of what they have for your own self and create your own version of it. Next lesson, number 22. Change will always happen, but your ready response will make things a little easier. Change will always happen, but your ready response will make things a little easier. Sometimes in life you have to lead or shift, as John Maxwell says, and pick up that book too while you're at it. I think I actually mentioned that one in the first SelfieCast. I'll check the show notes. But the year 2020, the year that shall not be named, even though I just named it, that was a year of massive change for the whole entire globe. And we all had to adjust. We all had to pivot. And some were able to pivot a lot quicker than others. Some were not even able to pivot at all. And those who were able to pivot and adjust were able to advance. And some were able even to grow even further. I myself, I was rocked too by the darn effects of the pandemic. Not the actual virus itself. Praise be to God for that. And that happened. I was able to pivot and my podcast grew because a lot of people were like, oh, podcasts, I could do those now. Oh, podcasts, I can guest on them. And next thing I knew, I interviewed over 117 new authors last year because I was able to have more time to put out more content and meet more wonderful people and connect with more people across the globe because everybody was stuck at home. And if you had a good Wi-Fi signal and you were starting an internet business, or if you had a book and you were able to publish a book, then you basically needed a place to get your message out there. And this is one of the places where I want authors to have a message. Like if you're an author with a book, I want this to be a place for you to get your voice out there, especially if it's a positive message that's going to help other folks advance in life. So change will always happen, but your ready response will make things a little easier. And even if you don't have a ready response, if you can adjust in just enough time, you can still siphon off the damage, stave off the damage from a total shell shock that may come your way. Next lesson, 23. Some relationships are meant to be temporary. Some relationships are meant to be temporary. When I was writing my first book, one of the things I did to build an accountability fire is that if the person seemed receptive, I would tell them about my goals of writing a book and publishing a book by November 1st, 2016. Some of those folks that I mentioned that I talked to, I put their name on a list. I never saw them again. And sometimes I wonder if they were just there for me to really just reinforce my mission, my goal at the time. Heck, even sometimes we may even have friends out there who we meet at one time and they get to one level, we may grow at another level. Heck, even some romantic relationships stop being romantic and they outgrow each other. And if they're lucky, they get to amicably separate. And we just have to realize that some relationships with people are meant to be temporary, and it's okay. Lesson 24. You can make more money in less time by working for yourself. You can make more money in less time by working for yourself. Past guest on this show, Brian Olds, I believe he had a IG or Twitter post mentioning how if a person gets a taste of entrepreneurship for the first time where they make more money in an hour than they make in a week for their day job, they're going to want to do more of it. And I myself have had that taste before, and it felt really good. But also, there's a caveat to this. The thing about entrepreneurship, it's not steady. Similar to one of the earlier lessons, success is a squiggly line, folks. It's not a straight line. It's not a straight slanted line. It's not northwest. North, you may be going north, but there's going to be some pitfalls, some dips where they're going to try to take you south. They may try to take you west. They may try to take you east, side to side, ping pong style. And you have to readjust and get out of that fog, clear that fog, lift up that fog, and keep pivoting and redirecting yourself back to north. And the thing is, if you can taste that lesson for yourself once, and you can find a way to replicate it multiple times, then you will feel good. I've tasted that once before, actually a couple times before, and I would love to do it again, and I'm going to do it again. Hence, past lesson, future truth. These build upon each other, my friends. These build upon each other like bricks. Number 25. Another reason why success is a squiggly line. Because self-sabotage holds you back from success more than any other thing. Sometimes we are our own worst enemy. The first law of leadership from John Maxwell's book, The 21 Laws of Leadership, is the law of the lid. Because if you don't lift that lid up in your life and let the steam come out of your greatness, your gifts, your passions, your talents, then you will stay in that metaphorical pot where your gifts, that steam, may not even get a chance to burst out. But if you lift up that lid and the smoke comes out, and that metaphorical fog, that smoke comes out of your gifts and talents, and it permeates the area, then you will feel better about yourself. Powerful story, anecdote. It was this wonderful fairy tale about this legendary knight, Gearfried. He was a sword master. He was a powerful man. And every time he swung his sword, the earth shook. And he would cause earthquakes to happen. Have power over nature every time he would swing his sword. And he was so afraid of his power that he created a suit, an iron suit, where he became an iron knight and sealed away his power so that way the power that he feared that would come out and destroy the earth would be sealed away so he doesn't harm anyone. And sometimes we ourselves are like Gearfried the Iron Knight, where we are so scared of our own power that we seal it away, we bottle it up. And I've been guilty of this in the past, and that's why it's one of the 30 for 30 lessons, is the fact that sometimes we can sabotage ourselves and hold ourselves back so much, we don't lift the lid up, we don't lift the fog up, and we don't move forward. Try not to let that happen to you. Avoid that as much as possible. And that goes in tandem with being in a climate of success, being around people that are doing big things, doing good things. Because if you're in an environment where success is a normal occurrence, where people are celebrating each other's victories and not being jealous, heck, even another one-liner, get better or get beaten, heck, even better than that, instead of getting jealous of other people's success, find out what they did and learn from them and create your own version of success. Because small-minded people are those people that get jealous of others because they have or at least they have a highlight reel of success. They have an appearance of success. They have these tokens of success, these tokens of victories. They may see the outside, but they have no idea the work that they put in to get to where they currently are, or what they're doing to probably sustain it. Because a lot of people may think that they may go on social media and get that darn imposter syndrome if they're in the entrepreneurial space, or they may get into that comparison gap, that comparison trap, and comparing your entire life to someone's highlight reel, a curated feed of things that they want you to know about, is definitely a death trap. So don't be like that person. Don't sabotage yourself by holding back your gifts. Number 26. Have an open mind, but keep your core values. Have an open mind, but keep your core values. One thing about this show, it's a real eclectic, motley crew of guests, because some folks, we got some heavyweights like the Simon T. Baileys and the Tom Antions, and then we have some other folks, some other episodes from folks who may be a little bit on the woo-woo side of the game, and you're like, let me tune out of this episode right here. It's like, I'll catch you on the next episode, Dom. This person's a little too out there for me. And that's the reason why this is one of the 30 for 30 lessons. Have an open mind, but keep your core values. The way we learn and grow and expand is by learning from other people, no matter what their background is. Because if we can learn from anybody else's story, we can learn more about ourselves in the process. And that's another reason why I have so many different guests on the show. I never thought in a million years I'd have a darn romance author on my podcast, and I've had two in the past. So go figure. And it's kind of interesting because listening to them speak, it's like, oh, they're actually really creative people that decide to write in a particular type of genre. It's not my favorite, and I don't ever see it becoming a favorite, but just hearing them speak and learning from them and seeing what inspires them, I was like, oh, so that inspires you, and that may in turn inspire someone else to realize that creativity can come from anywhere, content can come from anywhere. And if you're around other people that think differently from you and move a little differently than you may be able to catch some of that if it's good and then add it to your repertoire. Because that's the key. Having an open mind opens to other possibilities, but also keeping your core values in line too. Like always treating people with respect and kindness, staying professional. All these wonderful things. Just having your core the same, but still putting yourself out there just a little bit and learning about other things. So that way you're not completely on one side of the coin. 27. Always raise the bar on yourself. Always raise the bar on yourself. This podcast is probably an example of that, and I'm so darn proud of this show because I've been blessed to connect with so many other wonderful people and those who've been listening for a long time, whether you're listening now or still listening later, or whoever's listening now. I'm grateful for you because this show started with just a headset and my cell phone, recording on freeconferencecall.com, all the way to getting on Zoom and getting a microphone and getting a pop filter to be able to take out some of the popping noises from certain T's and P's and things like that, to upgrading my technology, learning marketing and becoming a better marketer, investing in courses, continually networking with other people, learning from them, guesting on other people's platforms, learning how they share their content with the world, how they produce, promote their shows, what they do with guests, their interview style, learning from them, always raising the bar on myself as a result. Because to be honest, if I stayed in my own little silo just interviewing other authors without podcasts, this show may not have grown as well as it did, as opposed to the times where I've cross-promoted and guested on other shows and they've been on this show as a returning the favor situation. I've learned from them, and some have even learned from me. One chick in particular, who was a recent guest who should not be named, to protect the guilty, I mean innocent. She mentioned after receiving an email with all the stuff that was in there, she's like, I gotta drink a bottle of wine after this. Like, I feel like an imposter. Like, why? You're too fancy for me. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm not too fancy for you. Like, I freaking like you. You do great stuff. I want to be on your platform. Your heart's in the right place. You're doing some good stuff. And hey, want to help out and just collaborate with other people. Because it's not a competition, it's a collaboration. It's the era of collaboration. If you want to advance, you got to collaborate with other people. Because you get to learn from other people and basically make yourself better as a result. And then they too will want to become better as a result too. So always raise the bar on yourself. Number 28. Age is nothing but a number. Age is nothing but a number. And the reason why I say this is because older does not always mean wiser, and youthful doesn't always mean they have youthful energy. One of my pet peeves, one of the things that pushes my buttons, is a person in their 20s, if not late teens, maybe even 30s, saying, man, I'm old. Man, we're getting old. I'm like, you blasphemous moron. If you don't wash your mouth out with soap right now with that crap, saying you old, lies. Far from old. And I believe there's a saying out there too. The youth is wasted on the young. Because when you get older and you don't have as much energy as you did when you're young, you're like, dang it. Like, why? I got all this knowledge now. And it's like, man, if I had the same energy I had when I was 25 as opposed to 65, man, I'd be freaking making waves. And these 20-year-olds know what the heck they doing. Now, granted, that's not everybody. And also, the older doesn't always mean wiser, because the thing is, Folks have been on the planet, they still need to be respected. Always respect your elders. But there are some where it's like, as Mr. John Maxwell likes to say, age and wisdom don't always go together. Sometimes age comes alone. I've been around some people where I'm still respectful, I'm still professional, but as they speak, I'm like, wow, alrighty. Hearing some of their stories, this is what to avoid. Don't become like this person. So that's my point, folks. Age is nothing but a number. Because those who may be quote unquote old, or should I say seasoned, may not always have the wisdom you think they have. But also, there's young folks out there who are young. They're young guns, but they don't always have that youthful energy because of the fact that in today's era, there's a lot more obstacles and a lot more psychic baggage that they're carrying from past generations on top of everything that's going on in today's society. So when folks saying they're getting old, that's my theory. They're talking about the fact that there may be some mental health issues growing in single parent homes and dealing with the inflation of everything where you have to fight a lot harder to get what you want. You feel like you have to work 25 hours a day and 8 days out of the week just to make ends meet. And even though that's true for a lot of people in today's society, thanks to all the negativity out there, you can still fight it off with all your might and still not speak evil in your life by being a blasphemous moron by saying you're getting old. Let me get off my soapbox with that one. Next episode, next lesson. We're 2 more and we're done, folks. Capture moments and keep them for later after you enjoy them. Capture your moments and keep them for later after you enjoy them. This lesson in particular, this one came shortly after my father passed back in 2017, where we were preparing for his funeral. During the viewing session, the funeral home, they wanted at least a maximum of 30 pictures to put in a slideshow form for folks to see while they're viewing the body. And when we went through these old photo albums, it was saddening but refreshing because there were memories where it showed my father when he had a lot more weight on him. It showed moments where he was happy. It showed moments when he was proud to be a veteran who served this wonderful country of the United States of America for those who live in America. As an 82nd Airborne Division paratrooper who had 2 combat jumps in World War II and served in the Korean War, who dedicated 12 years of service to this country. And just seeing those images reminded me of who he was in the more happier days as opposed to the later days before his eventual passing, where he was so skinny and lost a bunch of weight. Seeing him a little bit more youthful in some other photos and seeing some past photos, it took me back in time to when I was a little younger, because I'm still young. 30 is far from old. But grade school and below, and just seeing my dad the way he was back then, it just reminded me like, wow, like all these things, heck, even seeing some other family photos, it was just so amazing. And we're in an era now where we can capture so many pictures now. And we can look back on them. And we can be grateful for those memories. So if you have photos, take good care of them. If you have them in a digital file somewhere, make sure you back them up, because someday you may want to go back and look at them and remember and reminisce about some times where things were extra good and use it to replay some happier times if they were happier for you, and also continue to capture them as you're living through life, so that way you can even create a log, heck, even a victory log of certain moments, and you'll be thankful that you have those photos, because you can look back over your life and in this case over the lives of others and realize that, wow, this is a little bit of a taste of a time machine here, where I get to look back on these moments and think, wow, like my loved one, they weren't always sick. They were full of health and vitality. They were full of strength and energy. And like, man, this is an embarrassing baby picture of myself too. Just looking back on those memories and realizing that you should capture moments and keep them for later, while too enjoying the moment, because awareness is a major thing. And to close it off, One of my favorite words in all of languages. Of all the languages in the world, my favorite word, Kaizen. Kaizen, continuous improvement, continuous improvement. Lesson number 30 is the learning never stops. My friends, these are only 30. I'm sure, and there's probably a lot more, but I wanted to keep the list at 30. And this has gone pretty freaking long. Like, this is a long episode. I did say this is going to be the longest SelfieCast I've done thus far. And it's all to say that the learning never stops. If you made it to the end, realize that learning never stops. No matter how many years you accumulate on this earth in this form, the learning never stops. There's always new tricks to learn, new things to learn, new friends to gain, new relationships to build and maintain and to cultivate, especially as technology advances. There's always something new to learn, always something new to pick up. The learning never stops. And these next 30 years on Earth, they're going to be even better than the last 30. I'm going to speak into my life right now and hope you do the same for me, because I intend to live on this planet a long time, if the good Lord above allows me to live that long. And I intend to continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to develop and become better, and continue to help people and advance, and continue to live my life motto of advancing others to advance yourself. So my friends, if you made it all the way to the end, thank you for your listening ears. Thank you for your time, because time is so precious. We never get it back. And you decided to dedicate your attentions to this time and share it with me on my birthday celebration. If you're actually listening to this on September 6th. And if you're not, you can still wish me happy birthday. You could probably wish me happy birthday on February 23rd if you want, 2022 or 2025. I don't care. I'll still take it. I'll be like, man, thanks a bunch for listening to this episode. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your listening ears. I'm grateful for you. And advance others to advance yourself. Keep going north, because this is the show Going North, where the journey never ends in this lifetime until the Almighty says it's over. So keep learning, keep growing, keep advancing, and advance others while you're on the way.